Hey everyone, this is Andrea here. I decided to start reading some poetry that I wrote back in high school. I know this is kind of awkward, but I'm still sort of experimenting with this channel and what I want to do with it. Um, I have a lot of skills, hobbies, and interests that I'm keeping in mind. For now, I've been particularly interested in cringe, where I can look at something that I used to believe in and kind of cringe inwardly, but it's still kind of humorous for me. I think it's sort of like a transitional process from how I used to be to how I am now. So one of the things that I'm going to be reading here are some poems that I wrote. It's just cringy that they were from a time when I still believed in Christianity and everything it had to hold, but now I no longer believe in that. Um, I believe in, I'm more agnostic in my beliefs. And that's not to say to those Christian experts out there whether they can try to push the belief of God on me. I'm not going to accept that. I am into more deprogramming away from that ideological concept or thought process. So we're gonna kind of dive into this cringe poetry knowing that I'm going to dissect my own poetry, and then we're going to talk about its dissection and analyze it and maybe find something unique about it. Alrighty, let's begin. It's gonna be so weird. Alright, so this is known as poem number 2. I have exactly 237 different poems that I've written. Poem number 2 is called My Story. We're gonna skip poem number 1, and the main reason for that, before I start, is because poem number 1 was more so for like a project that I had to do for school, and it kind of started me on this route. This is when I just got into college as like a freshman in college, where I just started writing my own poetry and sort of experiencing or learning how to experience and manipulate emotions into words in a certain way from what I felt at that time. Alright, so now we're gonna begin. Let's go. When society fell on me, and I wept and moaned, for that one year I lost faith and was in pain, I met her, a girl who showed love that God owned. But I fell for her, and not the love I needed to gain. However, she desired no earthly love, but only God's love, a love that I could not comprehend at the sight. I became lost in my pains, as Satan's shadows shoved. Darkness and shadows grew. Hate flowed to his delight. Then she began to call me as a friend to the end, and I heard her this time and understood her calling. God changed my life by letting us meet as friends, and now I know that he will catch me when I'm falling. This girl who helped I met through the internet, no doubt. I love because now I know what God's love is all about. Well, we're gonna dissect it now. Let's get ready for this. When society fell on me, how do we actively define that? Or when I wept and moaned? I mean, I get it. During that time, I was significantly depressed and struggling with that depression consistently. This poem is more about a girl that I met online. There's so much contrast of what is good and evil in this poem. You can't necessarily declare something good or evil. You can only talk about, it's not a black and white thing. So for me, Satan's Satan and evil conceptually was sort of that black and white aspect, while talking about God was more like more good. And yes, we do want to encourage good in the world, but the world isn't always black and white. It's going to be gray. There's going to be a lot of things going on within the world that maybe we can't directly affect or can't directly change. And sometimes just because someone or something says so doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most appropriate thing to do at that given time with those given factors in place. I think since I wrote this in November 19th of 2007, I was still trying to discover myself, discover who I was. I was only 18 years old, so for one thing, I didn't even know I was trans. I was still a dude. I didn't transition until I was 28, for those that don't know. It's just, what bothers me most is this belief in God and how he changed my life, even though I was pretty much doing the same thing as I had been doing my entire life. I think I was more so roped into the way I saw church from her perspective and from what she was doing, and how cool and attractive that young adults church was. When we look at the Bible, the only thing that seems to define love is God, but that seems to be also contradictory throughout several parts of the Bible. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details about the Bible itself or any conceptualization associated with it. I'm mainly more focused on the poetry and what the poetry represents. And it simply represents that back then I was involved in a lot of black and white thinking that significantly influenced who I was at the time. And now I've been deprogrammed from that significantly to where I am now and expressing my own individuality for who I am. Anyways, if you want to hear anything more about poetry or something else, I might be doing other things. Like I said, I'm not sure yet. I'll have to use a little bit of my imagination up there. Just like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Take care. Bye.